I'm Dana Goldman. I'm the interim dean of the Saul Price School of Public Policy, and I'm really pleased to offer you this discussion today from our school on athletes and social justice advocacy. You know, there's obviously a long and controversial history of athletes using their public platforms for protest. A lot of us can remember singular moments in our lives where athletes have brought a message to the broader public. And I can't think of any better place to have this discussion than the University of Southern California, with our strong tradition of student athletics and our success in this area. As many of you have heard, if USC were a country, its number of Olympic medals would place it 16th among all participating countries. But it's not just about athletic performance anymore. The nature of what it means to be both an athlete and a student athlete has really changed dramatically over the years, both with the influence of money in sports and now most recently with the movement for social justice. And so the role that our student athletes take in our community and in our society has transformed. And that's why I believe today's discussion is so important. And we have an excellent panel for you today, and I want to introduce them. First is Mike Bone, the Charles Griffin Cale Director of Athletics at USC. Julie Rousseau, USC's Black Lives Matter Action Team. And Darnell Bing, Price alumnus and former American football linebacker with the NFL. And then finally, our own Professor LaVonna Lewis, who's the Price School's Associate Dean for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, will moderate the discussion. You can read more about their bios online, but I think I want to give them the opportunity to have as much time with you as possible. So LaVonna, please take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Interim Dean Goldman, for those introductions and for those opening remarks. It is indeed a pleasure to greet you on this space. I think as Dean Goldman was saying, these are critical times, and the role of athletes in this time, I think, is getting amplified in multiple ways. And we're here to talk about that. And we're here to, again, share with our very esteemed panel kind of their firsthand experiences with the topic. I am on this panel as someone that's been at USC for almost 25 years now. So I have the pleasure of seeing one of my former students in this space. And I told him, so this won't come as a surprise to him, that I was going to call on him first as we kind of began the conversation. But I also want to celebrate the fact that he will soon be defending his dissertation. And again, we want to celebrate that as well. So scholar athlete are something that can be celebrated. So I want to just talk about the role in terms of, again, the times that we're in, the recognition that people of color and their allies and advocates are really kind of challenging maybe some of the ways that we think about engagement and conversations around kind of the role of athletes in civil society and the influences they could have. And I know that each of you has both personal and a story and kind of a commitment to this work. And I'm going to go in kind of alphabetical order for the first question or the first prompt. And so Darnell, if you can answer that question, Mike second, and then we're going to finish with Dr. J. She told me I could call her that because, again, she does have her doctorate. And so it is Dr. J. So we're celebrating her as well. So please, Darnell, get us started.
Yes, first I would like to say thank you all for putting on this event, and then also for allowing me to be present with you all this afternoon. But to your question, I think now with all that's taken place and the many roles or the many things that athletes are doing, I think it's a wonderful thing. It's very unique. I think for a student athlete or an athlete in general, they have a very unique place in society. You know, they are idolized and recognized by by young people, by older people, by their peers, so they actually have the opportunity to touch many people's lives and encourage something or encourage these individuals to vote. So I enjoy the fact that they are doing so many things nowadays and allowing their voices to be heard and not only sticking to what some folks would assume they only do as far as being athletes. They're allowing themselves to really, really utilize their voice and take ownership of their voice, and also to educate us as to providing us information on the different things as far as voting. It's not just about going out and placing a vote. It's the many different components within voting that they are offering us and teaching us about. We have the different propositions that can affect us if we vote yes or no, and then the different populations that it can affect as well. So I'm very gracious for everything that the many individuals are doing within this realm and utilizing their voice to really give us, the world, an opportunity to hear from them, given that they have so many people that are watching them. Athletics, each week at a game, you have 1 million people watching these games, and for them to be able to utilize this platform that they have, especially now with social media, we can just say LeBron James, the wonderful things that he's doing. There are so many people that's watching this young man, and he's doing amazing things. And because of the fact that he has this platform and he's given all of these jewels to be able to educate us on, the culture, educate us on some of the things that's taking place in society today with the unfortunate murders of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. He's given us knowledge on where he stands and encouraging us to take a stand in a positive way. But also, he's also encouraging us to go out and vote so things in this world can change also. So I'm very grateful for it. I love the fact that athletes are stepping up now in a way to where, for me, I haven't really seen it in previous years. I know that there were some things that took place before my time that I am aware of, but now to see that all of these things are coming back and these athletes are really stepping up, I'm loving it.
Thank you, Darnell. Mike.
Well, Darnell, that was really well said. And I tell you, I haven't had an opportunity to meet Darnell personally, but to understand a former Trojan great who wore number 20 when it was a retired number of Mike Garrett's, and what it probably took for a young man to be able to go through that exercise to make that happen is impressive to me. And just hearing him understand that sense of progress, I think is just so critical. And Darnell said it well. I think it's about student athletes' voices being heard. And it's easy to say that as a cliche, but I really think it is about, hey, are we really listening? Are we really pulling people together? I think one thing that sports and intercollegiate athletics in particular does for our awesome nation is it's a rallying point. It's where we come together, and it's where we have the ability to talk about different things or just get excited about rallying around our team and what that represents to our community, to our city, to our state. Sometimes, I think of our alumni with USC across the entire nation and the impact they have and the ability to influence them. And so I think as our student athletes are heard, it's impactful because we're learning. And I think that it's important for sports to be a great leader in helping people learn and grow and be inspired. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand about the power of sports and the ability to pull that together. Because again, it is inspiring when athletes come together and do different things and make things happen. And, I'm just so appreciative of, for example, what our student athletes did when they wrote to the governor of the state of California to really open up the communication and the lines of a plan to be able to play football in the Pac-12 conference. I mean, that right there, I think probably would never have had the impact it had maybe when Darnell played, or certainly when I was all-league clipboard quarterback. But, I wasn't a star like Darnell. But I think that, back in our days, Darnell, I'm not sure that would have had the same impact. And I think that's an example of how student athletes' leadership really can make a difference. And they do make a difference. And we want to continue to keep that trend going.
Thank you. Julie.
Well, I think that both Darnell and Mike really put it aptly, the importance of the voice of student athletes and how powerful it is, not only for student athletes, but athletes and professional athletes. And again, this is a part of just the history of how much an athlete can influence change. And really allowing our athletes, particularly at USC, our student athletes, to be a part of to be change agents and be a part of the process of moving us closer to more of a diverse and equitable and inclusive environment, I think is powerful. Just from our United Black Student Athletes Association that presented the 12 recommendations to Mike Bohn about what they wanted their experience to be like, the changes that they wanted to see, really was the impetus for the work that we're doing with USC Athletics Black Lives Matter Action Team. And so this is a part of saying, hey, recognize that there are some disparities, there is discrimination, and we want that change to happen. But I don't think that we can move forward, or we can move forward, but I think we need to always understand our history, the history that of athletes like Jackie Robinson and Jesse Owens, and even as recent as Colin Kaepernick, who were willing to take a knee, willing to raise their voices for those whose voices are not heard and those voices that are marginalized. And as a woman, as a coach, a former coach, I also want to bring up the fact that the WNBA has really always stepped forward in terms of raising its voice and the consciousness of its viewers. And the amount of sacrifice that these women are making that are not making the amount of money that male professional athletes make, but are walking away from the game in order to stand up and raise their voice and amplify their voice for social justice issues. People like Maya Moore, who is well known for being one of the greatest female basketball players, who walked away from the game in order to help fight for a man that was wrongly accused. So those are examples of athletes using their platform, using their voices in order to create a consciousness for social justice and change.
So thank you. And I'm going to ask start this question with you, Dr. Russo, and then others can answer if they choose to. So we've been talking about the kind of the positive aspects of athletes and activism, but there have also been kind of conversations around people that just want athletes to be silent, right? To just be happy with the contract and to just play the game. And so how should we respond to folks who think that we can pigeonhole people just because we know them and not kind of think about their kind of broader impact on society?
I think that limits them into, as you say, this label of just being an athlete, the just shut up and dribble. And I think that athletes are now saying, no, I am more than that. And I think when the environment encourages them, such as what we're trying to do with USC Trojan Athletics, encourages them to be more than just that and give opportunity for that. I think that really helps them expand, in terms of what contributions they can make, not only to the university while they're at USC, but beyond. It's about creating leaders that are ready to move forward and make a contribution to their own communities that they come from in order to improve those communities. And so I think it's up to us to make sure that we give them those opportunities to expand outside of just their athletic experience, such as, connecting. What we've been doing is we've been partnering with many of the departments in the university university that are already in existence that are doing great things. We want to see our student athletes have opportunities to be a part of the mentor program from the Black Alumni Association, or be a part of the CBCSA programs. That's a way for us to give them a whole experience and not just one that is focused on just their athletic ability and just being a student athlete to stay eligible, but really expanding and being a part of the university life.
Moreover, I think that as Dr. Russo talks about that sense of growth, I mean, obviously the sense of what USC is about. And I think that's why, as I look at Darnell on the screen, that is exactly the model of a student athlete that you're looking for. Someone that, hey, he played at the highest level. He played in incredible bowl games, did some great things, but guess what? Now he's pursuing a doctorate. He's pursuing other ways for impact. And I think that the day that we recognize our student athletes are only viewed for what they do on the field is such really a tragedy, because their lives go on. I mean, what is the average time in the NFL for a player? It's less than 2.5 years, I believe. So you start thinking, okay, what are they doing afterwards? And I think that's why when you think of our vision for intercollegiate athletics at USC, it is to be the most student athlete centric program in the country so that they can thrive long term. And I think that's why when you think about the negativity of somebody saying, well, they did this when they were an athlete, or they did that. And it's kind of like, well, wait a minute, where was the growth of the individual there, of just not only the athlete, but the people that they were around? And you start thinking of how their brand grows and develops. And I'm mindful of a lot of wonderful people in my life that have helped me, but one of the most impactful one is no one can give anybody on this screen or anybody listening to today's session a formula for success. Really, I mean, we can have some nice pieces about it, nothing that's guaranteed, but there is one guaranteed one for failure. And that's trying to be everything to everyone. You know what? Some people don't like how Darnell played or did whatever he did, or any player, or how they looked, or how they ran on the field, or how they let their jersey out, or what color their socks were. I mean, keep going. You could go on forever. But guess what? Not everybody is going to be in agreement with what works there. So I think that's why it's just probably really not productive for us ever to feature and think about, well, what does everybody think? Because guess what? We're never going to win everybody. So let's just think about how we're growing and developing young people and allowing these student athletes to go on and be doctors and teachers and whatever they're doing in their career. I mean, think of Julie. Julie coached for a long time, very successful coach, was a head coach at the WNBA level. And now all of a sudden, look at her. She's taken all that experience and leveraging that into making a big difference associated with our Black Lives Matter action team. And every week we meet and we talk about impactful situations, developments, thoughts. And it's not an agenda she's working. She's leaning on her leadership and experience as an awesome coach. And that makes us all better.
Thank you, Mike. So Donna, anything you want to add? Looks like your mic is open.
So follow me here. I personally love when someone tries to pigeonhole me, because my actions that follow suit allows me to show them that I am more than what they see firsthand. So the fact that we had this young individual who told these basketball players to shut up and dribble, that was interesting. But at the same time, the things that they are now doing to make her shut up and just do her job, it's tremendous. I love it. I love that they are continuing to do things. I love that the world is doing bigger things. And the fact that we are able to see the transition in many individuals today from the athletic world and going into different fields after that is amazing. What Mike Bowen has mentioned as far as, changing the trajectory at SC and making sure we offer the student athletes a holistic development is so important, because we do have a lot of student athletes who have that mind frame that they were just an athlete. But as long as we continue to offer them these development skills, the development to be an individual outside of their sport, we will be able to continue to shut the mouths of those individuals who only view us as athletes. And I think that's important, because if you try to pigeonhole me and tell me that I'm less than a man and I can't speak on issues that are directly affecting me, there's a problem there. But as long as I'm being provided the necessary tools to make me or encourage me to speak up and use my voice, that empowers me to go back at you in a respectful way. And that's what I want to see. That's what I love to see. And I'm going to say this to you, Mike Bone. I love your vision. I definitely want to be a part of it as much as I can. And I'm hoping that we can continue to uplift and empower our student athletes, not just at USC, but across the board, because it's important. We need to continue to help our student athletes have that voice, like LeBron James is doing, like Colin Kaepernick did, and like the young ladies in the WNBA, like they continue to do. It's important that we continue to give those students, the student athletes, that power, or to empower them so they can continue to grow and be something that they are truly called to be, and not just be something that's based off of their athletic ability.
Thank you, Darnell. I want to direct a question to you, Mike, because your focus on unity and growth is something that really resonates with me. And so I would like to kind of hear how you take these young people from very different backgrounds and spaces and kind of create this sense of this sense of unity, and again, kind of recognize that this environment they're in is kind of a unique opportunity for their growth.
Well, it's funny you say that. How do I do it? I don't do it. I do it as a part of a team. And I think that's one thing that President Carol Folt talks a lot about here at USC is let's think of all the awesome things at USC. You've got an incredible world-class hospital and what that represents. You've got 22 different colleges with 22 deans on campus and all their faculties that are represented. I mean, Julie Russo is a faculty member at USC and does an incredible job. The resources of intellect, of energy, of passion, of the ability to try and make a big difference is so vast at USC. I've only been here, I'm coming up on my 1-year anniversary next month, and it's just unbelievable. And now I've met Darnell, and I'm thinking, okay, where was that sense of community and that USC family we talk about all the time that's so powerful here? Well, guess what? It's cooking. And people are beginning to understand the importance of being able to pull everybody together. And we have incredible staff members on campus that are so dedicated to our student athletes and want all students to be successful. So I think that it really is a team game. And I believe that as people learn more about so many different things associated about race, about social injustice, about history, as Julie talks about, everybody is going to begin to have a better sense of comfort in being able to rally and come together and listen and learn before judging something that they really don't know a lot about. And, I'm so appreciative, for example, of what's going on in Annenberg School of Communications under Willow Bay's leadership, and how she and many members of her faculty are reaching out and saying, hey, we've been doing this summer series for NFL athletes to help them build their brands, build their social network associated with the internet, and all those different things. Well, guess what? Now they're thinking, how are we doing that for our student athletes at USC now? Why are we waiting for them to go to the NFL and maybe bringing them in when maybe they didn't even go to USC? So you start thinking of, look at Darnell, you think of his rich history at USC. If we had that training, that investment in him beforehand, guess what? Now maybe he has the ability to leverage his skills even further and quicker. And it helps us in recruiting. It would help us in our overall connection with our incredible Trojan family alumni. I think it helps us in raising money for the entire institution. And as I like to say, build a higher intensity of interest in USC, not just athletics, the entire institution, which then, as the number one private employer in LA, expands into our greater LA community, and then it begins to influence the other major institutions that we're in the Pac-12 within the state, Stanford, Cal, UCLA, to the point where, hey, we got something cooking that's special that people want to be a part of.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And so I want to ask kind of a transitional question, if you will, and to recognize that that there is this, we are preparing young people for civil society and their engagement in kind of civil society in all of its manifestations. We talk about the role of USC. I celebrate the fact that the Galen Center is going to be opened up for voting, which I think, again, is an important signal to the community that we're part of the community. But can you share some, and I will ask whoever feels comfortable answering the question first to answer it. Can you provide some other examples of things that you've seen personally or have done that sees kind of how the athletes are connecting to some of these issues, both while they're in school and also as they kind of transition to sports? Kind of what are they doing to kind of make these issues more visible on an individual level and not just as part of this kind of large category called athletes? So Julie, you mentioned some examples earlier from the WNBA. Anything else that you've seen personally that you think that the audience should really know about in terms of athletes' engagements around USC?
Yeah. So again, I go back to these 12 recommendations. That is our calling card. It truly is the impetus. It's the directive that we have in terms of the work that we're doing that came from our United Black Student Athletes Association. And I will say, just to kind of highlight again the Galen Center, because it's something that I think you're right. It does speak to the fact that USC is saying to our community that we are extending an invitation to our community to come in and use our facilities in order to engage in your civic engagement, as well as to stay safe during this pandemic. And that comes from also the work that emanates from LeBron James' group, More Than a Vote, that we wanted to be a part of, using our facilities to say, we want our community to come in and use that. But that comes from the UVSAA recommendation of no athletic activity on election day. And Mike Bone came out and said, no activity on election day. And so we took it a step further and said, how can we even expand on that? Let's see if we can use the Galen Center. And that has come to fruition. And I just want to, again, highlight, just please bear with me. We talk about unifying, solidarity. We have been working with the Center for Political Future, Vote SC, university relations, whether it be parking, our facilities, all of these people that have come together to say, we want to be a part of this. And so this is a team effort. It is a joint effort. And many of our student athletes are going to be volunteering. Some of them are not registered to vote in California, and they're going to come and volunteer their time in order to be a part of this. So the more that we give these types of events and opportunities for them to be engaged in their in their civic duty, I think it makes it easier for them to be a part of it and lend their voice. And I just want to again highlight people like Chris Paul, that just yesterday, he organized a march of 2,500 people to Winston-Salem State for early voting. I mean, those are images that our student athletes are seeing that they want to mimic and say, hey, we can do even more. We can continue to be a part of this engagement. And so those are some of the ways and examples that I think that they're seeing. And again, that our student athletes are, I'm sorry, because my mind is going about several things. We have an advisory committee, and our advisory committee is consisted of 30 people. Some of them are student athletes, coaches, our staff, and professors. And our student athletes get every week have an opportunity to influence some of the work that we're doing around the Black Lives Matter Action Team. And so again, that's ways that they're using their voice, they're using their time to be engaged in the process of change.
Thank you. Anyone else want to answer that question, or should I move on? Mike?
No, I was going to ask Darnell, because I think that he has a unique perspective in the sense of, and I think Julie touched a little bit on this. I think for me, as we continue to learn and grow on all these different opportunities that exist as a team, that it's not just student athletes and professional athletes' job to drive this. And it's all of us. And I think that's why this teamwork on campus and all the organizations Julie mentioned, of which there's probably 30 more that are involved in one way or another, or certainly want to be involved. But Darnell, I think that sense of fatigue as an elite athlete, of thinking, wait a minute, you have your own life, you have your own challenges associated with keeping your body healthy, doing all the things you're trying to do mentally. You have your own family, you have your own life to live. It is not just your job as a Trojan great and NFL alum to drive things. And I just think it's important for people to understand that. But I think Darnell can probably address that better than I can.
Yeah, so I completely understand where you're coming from with that. One, just going back to the student athletes. So we're speaking about college. It is important that it is a unified thing that this is driven, because I'm just thinking about myself when I was at USC. I knew that I had an option to vote. I did not know much about voting, but until I get that information from you all and teach me on how to vote and why to vote, it'll empower me more to want to vote. But at the same time, like I said, I need you all to do your parts to kind of educate me and helping us educate the world to make sure that we are encouraging people to go out there and do what is right. So yes, it does not only fall on the student athlete, because if the student athlete is the only one that is doing the job, yes, they will get tired, they will be exhausted. But at the same time, how do we know these student athletes know all the logistics as far as going out and vote? We can have student athletes going out there preaching something that does not really, does not really go. So does not really fit. So it's important that it is definitely a unified and collective partnership to make this work. You have to educate us. We have to tell you what we do and don't know. And then we can come together and create an atmosphere that will touch many other individuals to encourage them and be able to shine the light on the purposes and the reasons why voting is important.
So I want to pick up on that issue of fatigue, and this idea that is it reasonable to expect that celebrities, athletes being one category of celebrity, be asked to kind of lead these types of advocacy efforts, right? Particularly athletes of color, celebrities of color. The expectation is that you will do whatever you can to lift up your people. Is that a reasonable set of expectations? Or, I mean, again, it's like, is that something that we should hold for all celebrities? Is it the same metric, or do we recognize a different set of standards when we see celebrities of color versus white celebrities?
Anybody else want to take that? I can go.
Go for
However
it.
you like it. All right. I think, as you mentioned, I think it goes back to the fatigue. You don't want. I think that the world expects that these individuals that are in these places to share and be the advocate for the many things that are taking place. But at the same time, we also have to be mindful that these individuals are people. They're not engines. They're not, they don't run off of gasoline. They actually have their lives, as Mike Bone mentioned earlier. It's a lot that goes into place with this. So if we are able to, hear the voice of an athlete, but do not drain them, and allow that one advertisement or advocacy piece to take place, and everybody else follow suit. Meaning, the NBA, they began to do their part and not using the athlete all the time, or the NFL or different colleges. I think that will work for. I think that will allow the athletes to use their voice in a sense without using their voice, because now you have the collective party that is working together to show or share that this is our stand. We are in full support of the athlete. The athlete may not be speaking at this very moment, but we are in full support of the athlete, and we're advocating for them in the way that they want us to advocate for. So we definitely don't want to fatigue our athletes or just our individuals in general. And I say individuals in general because I know where I'm at my campus, we have, since the George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and all that took place, a lot of the African-American faculty and staff members were pulled on in many different directions and many ways. And that caused fatigue and for a lot of people. And just because you are the African-American population doesn't always mean that you have to be that individual that's speaking up. And it goes back to creating that unity. Once we create that unity and we have that space to where other individuals are able to speak up and speak up in the way that they are speaking up, that is rightfully so for the African-American population, it allows for individuals to not be so fatigued that are directly affected from the things that have taken place.
Thank you.
I think Darnell really said it well in the sense of teams are made up of a lot of different type of leaders. Julie knows this in the way that she coached, and the teams that I was a part of that were successful or unsuccessful, regardless of what they're able to do on their field, they all have different individuals that bring a different skill set. And one thing that I was really pleased to see when the Major League Baseball, Major League Soccer, virtually the WNBA, virtually every professional enterprise chose not to play. And I'm sure there were some individuals on those teams like, wait a minute, what are we doing? But guess what? They were all learning and growing and helping in their own way in their own locker rooms. And I was really impressed by that. I think there was a bigger meaning and a bigger message there. And maybe Darnell is our captain and he's representing us and he's our leader and really is somebody that everybody looks to in the locker room, but maybe he isn't always the first one up with the microphone. That doesn't mean that his impact and his knowledge of the issues isn't a significant piece of that overall team. And I think that's why the individualism of all the different type of athletes, high profile celebrities, everybody has a little bit of a different way to contribute to that. And I think that we need to recognize that there's great value in that.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to say in terms of the fatigue, I think the more that, and I'm going to go back to the educational series that we're doing with our action team, in terms of when people are informed, when people have similar language and understanding, I think it gives opportunity for some people to pick up the mantle, take a little bit of that, the effort that maybe our Black student athletes or our coaches and staff are carrying, and be able to become allies, right? When I understand what people are going through, I am more willing to help you and support you because I have a better understanding. And so every month we've tried to give our athletic department, some educational series that helps us understand at a common level where each other is and maybe the experiences that we have. And so I think that really creates this unity, this unified, what we call solidarity, where we have a better understanding, which means that we can help each other a little bit more and maybe take some of that, the load that just a few have been carrying, where others can carry that as well. And so I think it does come back to education. I think it comes back to really understanding where each other is and being able to, lighten the burden, so to speak.
Thank you. I have one more question, and I'm going to take some questions from the audience. We have an election next Tuesday, and again, I think most people are mindful of the fact that again we are divided again in some ways in our country, and again, so the advocacy piece is part of the conversation, and so again, it's like, how do we most effectively kind of think about our connections after the elections, because there's going to be winners and losers. That's the thing about political science. There's always, again, the winners and losers. And again, given this activism, given this engagement, kind of what do you see, again, the student athletes and some of, again, our professional athletes doing kind of in this transitional period as we kind of think about the future on the other, as we kind of move forward? I don't know if that's an unwieldy question, but I guess I really want people to kind of think about kind of the future and what gives you hope right now in terms of, again, some of the efforts that you see in terms of your networks, the efforts that you see with the students, or Darnell, your students, or again, the kinds of things that we should be looking to as reasons to celebrate.
Well, I tell you what, I'm seeing Julie smile, and I recognize how Darnell's doing it on his own campus, but I'm encouraged and hopeful, because guess what? One of the most valuable tools you have through intercollegiate athletics is dealing with adversity, injuries, winning, losing, maybe not getting to play as much as you'd like, challenges associated with this sense of competition. They compete each and every day in practice and ultimately in the classroom. And that is going to give them strength and courage. And I think that's why a lot of the work that Julie's doing with as our leader and leading a team associated with the Black Lives Matter Action Team is about that. And then we talk a lot about sustainability. And maybe, Julie, I can tee that up for you, because I see you gleaming, wanting to share all the energy there and the positivity we got going.
No, I think you did tee it up pretty well, but it's just sustaining this work. I mean, continuing in this work. I think we've just scratched the surface. You know, we're doing a needs and assets assessment. What are we doing well? What are we not doing well? And really, collecting data, listening to our student athletes, our coaches, our support staff to say, well, what do you want to see? What would be the ideal Trojan athletic department? And so we are really just scratching the surface, but I'm excited because we're in alignment, not only with our university, but Mike Bone, who is taking lead on this, is saying, whatever we need to do, let's keep doing the work. And so that's what I'm most hopeful about, is that as we collect these data and we identify areas that we need to improve in, that we have people that are willing to do the work and sustain that work in order to create, to transform our athletic department. You know, Mike always talks about being the #1 student-centric, student-centered, athletic department, and he means it. And so that is why I'm hopeful, is that I am working for a leader who is saying this matters, Black Lives Matter, and that our student athletes are educated and prepared not only to thrive while at USC, but beyond, and that he's not only saying it, but he's putting his effort into it, being at the meetings, making sure that we're trying to, I'll give one quick example. In terms of our educational sessions, we're trying to figure out ways that we can make it more accessible to our student athletes and our staff so that it's easier for them, but that they still are getting that content. So I'm just, again, hopeful and excited, because there is a true commitment, and we have to continue to do this work after the election, no matter what happens. This is what we said is important to us, and we have the commitment from our leader that it will be sustained. So that's what I'm hopeful for and excited about.
Thank you. Darnell, anything you want to add? Or
I will add, I will say that I think it's important that we recognize, let's just taking the election out of the equation right now. I think it's important that we recognize the fact that a lot of individuals within the world came together and had different protests. Some folks would like to call it riots, but a lot of individuals have many different protesters across the world. After the election, the things that have taken place to cause these protests will continue to take place. We have to be honest. As you can see now, we're still having young African-American men and women being murdered by the hands of law enforcement. So these things are going to continue to take place, unfortunately. But as long as we continue to be unified and be in unity and continue to fight against these things and fight in a respectful way against these things, that's the only way we'll be able to create any type of change. So it's important that we continue on what we're doing now after the election, because the adversity won't stop then. You know, it's only, in some cases, it only may intensify based off of who gets elected. So it's important that we have that mindset that the work doesn't end here. The work must continue. We have to be dedicated to what we're doing now and make sure that we continue this work and continue to give this information to those that are coming behind us as well, because they're going to face adversity also. And then from the educational component, you know, it's tough out there. It's tough out there, especially for the African-American population. I don't mean especially, just the African-American population. We have a lot of things that limit our abilities to truly be who we can be. But the work that we're doing right now with this unity and being unified, it's encouraging us. It's encouraging us to take our education a little more seriously and encouraging us to encourage our teachers to respect our minds and respect our individuals as a self. So if we continue this process, if we continue with this progress, it's only going to be beneficial for all of us in the later down the line. But if we allow this election to just completely stop the progress that we're doing, it's only going to hurt us. So I just want to say that I hope that everybody continues to keep their feet on the ground and moving forward and making sure that we are all unified to support each other. And it's not just about supporting the African-American population. It's about supporting everybody so we can all be on one accord to make sure that everybody is safe, everybody is respected and valued.
Thank you, Darnell. I have a question from the listeners, the audience, and they wanted to question about the tension that exists between the concerns about, let me see if I can find the question. This question about the tension between the folks that are concerned about the athletes playing and the social justice consequences, if there are any, of just saying no and that no being respected. So do you kind of get a sense, again, it's like, how can I put it another way? Not everyone is celebrating the athletic season. And so how do you respond to those concerns? Do athletes face any backlash if they say, I don't want to play in a COVID-19 environment?
Well, I'll start, and maybe our other esteemed panelists can comment, but I think it's really important for the group to hear today that any student athlete who chose not to play during the COVID challenge had no pressure to do so. Their scholarship was retained. They had the ability to continue to have every element of academic support, mental health support, all the dietary pieces that we put in together to support our student athletes. Every aspect was included, and there was no retaliation for any student athlete that chose. And we had a couple that chose not to, and we honored that. And I think that really came from the top with Dr. Folt, and obviously I agreed 100%. And so that is really an area where USC led the way nationally, associated with not counting that year of eligibility last spring for the athletes that lost that year. And now it's repeating itself this fall, where if you don't play, or even if you do play, that it doesn't cost you a year of eligibility. And so I salute USC for being on the forefront of that decision.
Thank you. Anyone else? But I think that pretty much kind of hits the what we need to know. Second question, what do you think is the role of the white athlete in particular in the efforts of athletes using their platform to advocate for social and racial justice?
I just want to bring up that I've had a chance to chat with all of our student athletes, whether they be our Black student athletes or non-Black student athletes. And I will say that many of our non-Black student athletes are saying that for the first time, they are really learning about some of the experiences that our Black student athletes have gone through, and that it's it's something that is stressful for them. Stressful in the sense of these are their teammates that they did not know were experiencing such racism, discrimination, and so that empathy I think is important to have in terms of one, even within each team setting. Having a better understanding of what our Black student athletes or student athletes of color are facing, and being able to meet them in terms of a better understanding of what their experiences are, so that they can be even a more unified team and to perform even better on the field. I think that the more that my pastor says, the more that you spend time with someone, the more you get to know them and then really understand who they are. And so I think that, again, as our student athletes begin to understand, whether they be our Black student athletes who have voiced their concerns or our white student athletes who say, I want to be an ally, I think it gives opportunity for us to really know each other at a deeper level than just my teammate. And we have this common goal that we want to win. When I really understand the experiences of my fellow teammate and what they go through, I think that really, more than anything, deepens that relationship and allows for more unity, so to speak, and even a better experience. And so I think that's what I'm hearing back from our non-Black student athletes.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Darnell, this is a question specifically for you. How can you help student athletes to understand that they as individuals can make a difference to improve society through engagement, even if they do not become famous, quote, famous?
I think it goes back to, just educating them. A lot of student athletes, and I'm speaking for myself when I say this part here, a lot of student athletes assume or have been praised from the time that they started playing their sport. A lot of them have started playing when they were 8, 9 years old, and they've been praised for doing this wonderful thing up until the time that they can no longer play it. So that becomes their priority. But if you begin to instill different things within these athletes and let them know that they can be more than just this athlete, start exposing them to different career fields and exposing them to different things that they may like. Ask them what are their interests outside of the sport. You have to learn what it is that you like outside of your sport so you can know what it is that you have the ability to be successful in. So I think it's important to allow the individuals to identify these things that are outside of their sports that they love. And then once you're able to do that, you have a better opportunity of seeing these student athletes be able to touch and go back into different communities and touch people in different spaces that does not necessarily have to do with their athletic background. So if you don't do that, we're going to fail our student athletes. If we just continue to push, hey, you're a great basketball player, you're a great football player, you're a great baseball player, and that's all you give them, that's all they're going to ever know. So until you begin to expose them to different things and allow them to see what it is that they like outside of their sport, we'll continue to do a disservice. So it's important that you expose them to other things.
Thank you. I appreciate that response. I think I thought we might have time for one more question. And so I'm torn because I also want to give the panelists a chance for any kind of final remarks. And so I'm going to err on the side of giving the panelists an opportunity to share any final remarks. And so I'm going to go in reverse, alphabetical order. So Julie, Mike, and Darnell, please, any closing remarks for the audience?
No, I just, again, thank you all for this opportunity to be a part of this conversation. I think it's a conversation that should not just end here. We've got to continue this work as it relates to creating an environment that is supportive of our student athletes, but particularly our Black student athletes that come into our university, not only with deficits, but also assets. And how will we support them so that their assets and what they bring to this university is celebrated and also a part of the very fabric of what we do. And so this work that I've been tasked to do is an exciting chapter in my life, you know, coming from being a head coach and now being able to really have a voice in influencing the environment that we create for not only our student athletes, but our coaches, our support staff, that is more equitable and inclusive and more diverse. I'm proud to be able to do that work. And again, I could not do that without the help that we've been receiving from other departments at USC. And I'm excited about continuing to do this work so that we can be the #1 student athlete centered athletics program in the country. So thank you all for this opportunity.
Thank you so much. Mike.
Yeah, that's well said, Julie. And I want to again thank the USC Price School of Public Policy for your leadership here. Awesome. And I think that's an example of people leaning into this opportunity, because that's exactly what it is. When I hear Darnell talking about exposing to different things and understanding and personal growth, that's really what living is all about. And I think that's why if we will just all continue to lean in and grow and expose each other to so many different things, we're all going to be a lot happier. We're all going to be more effective leaders. I can guarantee you that. I feel like the lessons I've learned through these challenges of not only COVID, but obviously the social injustices of our time, along with the challenges of the Alston case with the NCAA. I could go on and on and on with the challenges that we face right now. It really has made our team better of leaders. And again, I think that comes from the top at USC, from President Folt and her leadership team to so many others, to our deans. It really takes all of us. And back to our rallying point, I think that's why our future is bright, because we're all getting better because of this, no question.
Thank you. And Darnell, you get the last word.
All right. Well, I don't have much to leave you all with. I just want to say thank you all for putting on this event. Thank you all for attending that did make it on this Zoom call to hear us speak and share our points of view. It is definitely appreciated. But what I would leave you all with is just love thy neighbor. You know, and that's I think that is important for us to continue the progress that we are making right now, or that we've done so far. So just love thy neighbor and continue to be of support. And as Dr. J mentioned earlier, you know, when it comes to loving thy neighbor, it's important that you get to know thy neighbor. So, you know, until you get to know me, you really don't know who I am. So, you know, get to know the people that you're in close community with. Get to know those individuals that may not be in close community with you, so you can have a better idea of who it is that's in your surrounding area, and just so you can have a better idea of what people in this world are going through. That information will allow you to, hopefully it will allow you to think differently, but in a more positive way. So I would like to
LaVon, I just want to say, because Darnell said, get to know thy neighbor. I think Mike Bone invited everyone to his house for a barbecue tonight. So just wanted to add that. Thanks a lot, Mike.
Absolutely. Let's have some fun.
I just want to say that I have thoroughly enjoyed this space. I want to thank you all for really I won't say exceeding my expectations, because that sounds offline. But I just want to express gratitude for your honesty and for your informing the broader community, those who are listening right now, about the value of the athlete's voice, the legitimacy of that voice, and the efforts that are necessary for us to get to know one another and realize that there are similarities, there are issues that we can all agree to push for. We're in this together. And I appreciate, again, the efforts that each of you is involved in and engaged in to kind of help make that happen. USC is a better place for your connections. And again, I celebrate all of you and I thank you for your time today. So we're done, and they say fight on, right? Thank
Fight
you.
on.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you,
Right on.
everybody.
Thank you.